Welcome, welcome. We have another episode of The Weird Way here, and I am excited. Myself and Josh, who I'm having on today, we just spent maybe half hour having some of the best conversations. I've got it on video, not on this podcast, and I kind of love that because it really framed what we're going in today. Well, possibly. I think we're going to be exploring the mystery and whatever she invites in today. And one of the reasons I'm very excited for this conversation today is Josh is a man who, the story is that it takes 10 years to master something, to actually get to that point where we can consider ourselves masters of anything. And for me, when I hear of anyone committing to something for 10 years or more, or just going down that path of devotion, because for me that is devotion. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes showing up when you don't want to and continuing to move through that resistance. It builds a person into resilience. It builds them into someone who can hold something and really envision and bring forth what they want to do. And Josh has been doing that within the music industry for the last 10 years, a bit over 10 years. And I'm really excited for this conversation today. Josh, it's a pleasure to have you on, man.
Thank you, Dino. It's such a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Man, so I did say that you're in the music industry, but you're so much more than that. Like we were talking before about what you really consider yourself as, and the word that came up was creator, and I view myself in a very similar light. And I'm curious, like when you think of creator, what does that mean for you?
It's a great question because I think in the creative industry, we can so often resign ourselves to the smallest iteration of what we are. So I guess for me, being a creator outside of my musical capabilities was about immortalizing and embodying not only my skill and my craft, but my lens and my understanding of the world and my hope and my wish for what I want to see. And from there, it actually has opened so many doorways to what it is to be more of a creator of a reality and an experience instead of a moment.
And what comes alive there when I think of like the musician industry, and I know you've talked about this with me before, the starving artist archetype of, an artist is someone who's struggling to get by and really struggling in the world because their art's not recognized or able to bring it through in such a way where they're able to receive what they want for it. And when I hear you speak of creator in that lens and having that background, it feels like you really had to go on this journey to overcome that, to really like, hey, I can actually create something more where I can actually create a lifestyle as well as being the creator and being a musician and holding that down. And I'm curious about that journey because I'm assuming it was quite eventful and took quite a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was it's been a long fucking path. And what I started to understand about myself then was because this craft and this art form was something that I loved so deeply, the idea of really receiving like financial compensation for something that made my soul so happy was really conflicting. Like they were in constant battle of going like, oh yeah, but I can't possibly be paid more because I'm actually really happy doing this. And I think this is a theme that has come up a lot with different artists of like, yeah, but this is what I would do for nothing. And I'm like, okay, cool. There's a thread there, like there's a consistency there. So yeah, I started as a musician. Like I studied at uni, did a Bachelor of Contemporary Music because I was always going to be a performer. I didn't even know how, but I always knew that I was going to be. And so this place gave me a pretty broad range of skill in the studio and as an artist and as a songwriter and a few different things. And then it was like, cool, quit my job at Subway, which was, paying my bills and my drinks while I was at uni and then started. And the only consistent income that I had was $200 a week by playing at a shitty hotel cafe. My rent at that time was $187.50. And so I gave myself like an excruciatingly narrow window to operate inside of. But I had this relentlessness of it doesn't matter what it takes, I will get to a space where I can feel really comfortable and supported. And so take this maybe 6 years into the future, I was still quite bad at money management because everything that would come in, I started to get like some better paid opportunities and things like that. And when I would go and play my own music at festivals and things like this, you know, every dollar that I had, I would spend on music equipment and things to enhance the experience for everybody else. But I was still, you know, my parents were like shockingly watching me buy a $500 thing with $520 in the bank. You know, there was like this concern from them of going like, yeah, but are you doing the thing? And so what I knew at that time was that I'm not in a rush. This is what I'm here to do. So I didn't have this, I need to instantly have this in the bank and have this in my car and have, you know, there were no boxes to tick because I was like, I'm just going to almost on impulse put what I need together. And then 12 years later, my interaction with money is like breathing because I really allowed myself to dive in, to trust myself, to have everything that I need so that I'm a sustainable entity in the art world. I don't need to rely on anybody to keep things moving for me. And whereas back in the day, it was like go and do a show for $200 or $250 maybe. These days I'm out doing thousands of dollars a day because I actually reframed the way that I interacted with money and my art form and the way that I value myself as a person, not only the sounds that I'm making. And at the end of the day, I still love what I do. But I started to just understand that the more that I love it, the more that I have invested my time and my energy into being not only a musician, but a force, like a creative force. And people remember that energy over the details of the music. Yeah. And that became the metric for how I interacted with my clients, how I walked into the room. Just a little side tangent, like something that I receive a lot from people who work in events is, well, you have a lot of stuff. Like you bring a lot of stuff with you. And back in the day, I used to feel so ashamed about that. Like I have these huge pedal boards and road cases and 3 guitars and all this stuff. And potentially I was bringing more in before I was like warranted that luxury of like, yeah, you can bring in whatever you want. And so people would go, wow, that's a lot of stuff. But there was like this undertone of judgment and I would get really ashamed. Whereas now I have this stance of, I've always been ready for the opportunities that I have now. And I've been rehearsing for this time and in the future for 5 years and building resilience to actually I'm going to come in and do my job to the absolute highest capability that I have on any given day. And I will support myself to the best of my ability to do that. That changed everything.
I love this piece because when I'm seeing this, you bring in all these cases, all these elements, like, oh, I'm bringing all of myself with me. And even though there was like initially some shame around that, there's this element of you owning that and being like, yes, I've got all this stuff. I'm bringing it with me. And you know, I think in this world, there can be a lot of people that are so scared to own who they are in any terms. Like for you, that, you know, it came out in bringing all your music gear to performance, and that's required. But a lot of people being like, oh, can I bring this? Can I bring my emotional baggage? Can I bring the parts of me that I'm not sure are welcome in this space? And feel like often that people feel that same shame of, oh, I can't bring this into a space. And I think when we learn that we can bring that in, when we're allowed to have them experience and be like, actually, I get to bring all of me with me. I get to bring everything I need to be at my best. I get to accept all parts of me. It changes our experience. And by you doing that over and over again, you got to show that, hey, this is what people get when they like hire Josh. I bring everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring everything I need to give the best thing I can. And there is a power in that statement. And like going back to what you said, like this was a 12-year journey. And I think this is something I really want to iterate is that 6 years down the path, there was similar like struggles. There was similar things. The opportunities had changed, but there was still a similar pattern that occurred. And then, another 6 years down the track and it's completely changed. But that length of time is a thing that people are like, oh, I just want it to change tomorrow. I just want it to be different now. And in our society, there is a attachment to the instant gratification.
Absolutely.
And I've spoke about this lately more on Instagram, more on other platforms where, there's a maturing that occurs when we're willing to put in the time and the devotion to get somewhere. And at times there is no replacement for time and energy put into anything, whether that be money management, whether that be a skill like music production or like producing, whatever it is, there is a time that's required to actually get to that point in space. And then the other piece that really, really excites me within this is like the last 6 years, it sounds like there was maybe more of a switch. And I imagine this switch also occurred in the initial 6 years where it was like, at the start, it was like, oh, I love to do this. I love to produce music. I love to play. So I won't receive financially for this. And I know I've experienced that within my own work when I started to really love what I do, there was this fear of, oh, like I do this for free. Someone wants to pay me for this. I love to help people. I love to serve. And for me, it's this continuous unpacking of, oh, I can be happy. I can get paid for what I want. I can receive for what I want. And in that journey for you yourself, like what were you aware of some of the bigger limiting factors in that of being able to receive and how that shifted through you throughout that time?
Yeah, like I think you said it well. Like in the second half of my career so far, the biggest shift, we spoke about this off the air, but it was like the ownership. It was the ownership piece of like, oh, okay, I have some friends who they are the most inspired and the most like lit up when they are scraping the bottom of the barrel. There is like this pressure build and they go, cool, this is where all their creation comes from, and they do that. And witnessing them in that, I really own the fact that I'm not that person. And so when it came to like building a sense of stability and vision, I think I really had to own that I needed to change the way that I was interacting with myself so that I could change the way that I interacted with my clients and my opportunities and things like that. So yeah, it was a really funny one because like my mum, she was always like, you need to learn to work smarter and not harder, because I've been a hard worker for this long. Like I said in a conversation last night, like I haven't witnessed anybody else commit themselves to their journey the way that I have. And I don't mean that with any judgment or ego, but I have like constantly tried to evolve. So I went from doing cafes and restaurants and things like that to corporate-y stuff and then weddings, and then my corporate clients became these global entities and my clients became higher profile. And now I'm stepping back into all I want to be doing with my days is playing my own songs and creating huge impact just by being who I naturally have always been. And so like even that transformation, like there's a financial line that has really moved through that space as well. But what I really shifted was that I wanted to offer more. I wanted to add more value, and that was reciprocated. So I went, okay, because I know that I'm going to commit myself 1,000,000% to this opportunity, I can throw X amount of $1,000 on the bill because I know that they will be receiving every dollar, So I actually changed the way that I was doing it. I stopped asking, can they afford it? and I started asking, am I committed enough to make it worthwhile?
Mm.
That was the big shift. It was like, am I willing to rise to the worth? And the more that I got practice in that step, it felt better. People remembered me for longer. There was more, opportunity. The energy of how I've been operating was way more potent. Mm.
I love the similarities I'm experiencing here with you. Like myself, I'm more in the coaching space, and I see this often. A lot of people are like, how can I make more money?
Yeah.
How can I increase my income? And for me, that was my focus for a long time. And I was like, oh, I want to increase like how much I'm earning. I want to provide more comfort and security and all of this. And I got caught in like how to do that. And for a while, it wasn't working. Like it just didn't work for me. And probably does for some people. For me, it didn't land. But the question I began asking myself was instead, how can I be more of service? How can I have more impact? How can I give more? And like, the law of reciprocity, as when we give, we receive, but it wasn't in the sense of I want to get something back, but it's I actually want to give this. I fully want to give this because this is what wants to move through me. And when I speak to people, we can become so focused on the logistical and like how it's all got to work and all of that and trying to do it right.
Yeah.
And I see people dimming themselves or holding back of what they're here to bring or what they truly want to bring because they think that's what's expected of them or that's what's needed. And for me, when I ask that question of how can I give more, how can I be more of service, how can I impact more, it's still about what I can do. It's not about like what someone else's skills are or any of that, what other people can offer. It's all about me and what I can give. But it affords that opportunity to be like, oh, what's the capacity here?
Yeah.
What as a person can we bring and offer to a space? And we spoke of this earlier of like the expansion of a person's capacity and how important it is for an entrepreneur, for a creator of our own lives and what that looks like.
Yeah, the expansion piece is huge. And I think not more importantly, but equally importantly to the skill set growing and the craft being mastered. Because I feel like 10 years, you can do a lot in 10 years. Especially in like creative or self-development or, a lot of different industries, give it 50 years. Like it will never stop. It will never stop developing in, I think the bell curve is like, okay, you learn a lot and then you're up here and then things slow down a lot. But it's like, that's where finesse comes in. Like from like 10 to 30 years, you hear some of these guys play and they've actually slowed down because they're feeling the music more. They're allowing the finesse of their experience to shine through. They're not worried about like, oh, is this the right note? And I think that's that's where knowledge becomes wisdom, because music and wisdom are so tightly linked in my understanding of like, you can be wise about the impact of music, about the resonance, because you've stopped thinking about the details. You've stopped micro dissecting each individual element, and you really start to fucking feel it as this, as a force of transformation. That's something that I'm really passionate about now. It's like allowing music to be a transformational force, regardless of what the format is. Like, I don't think that healing music needs to sound a particular way, because people can be so impacted and changed just by a moment out of the blue, Yeah. But yeah, the expansion piece, that's been really important for me. And I think it's actually taken me out of the musician and into the creator. That expansion of, oh, there's more to me, and that I've been unwilling to share up until this point. And so that's when the vision became really strong and the impact became really strong. And I was like, oh, cool. My songs and my lyrics and my energy on stage, so that's one thing. but I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to, I'm going to shake up this whole system by allowing the vision to be more and allowing myself to be more and really stepping into the challenge of what it takes to change something. Yeah.
The words there, like the impact of music, that really stood out to me there, because I felt your energy when you said that, and you know, language is a vibration, and we can be speaking to that. But I also know like your creation, Sounds of Life, and I feel like that's been in that similar vein of music as a tool for impact. And I'm curious if you can just like speak of more of that in your own experience and like what that really means.
Yeah. So so I started the Sounds of Life touring company, and the idea from this started from a couple of different experiences that I had. One thing over the last few years, I played at a lot of weddings, and something that I really loved to do was to feel the energy of the wedding ceremony, because I'm playing, people are there, and they're so wrapped in what's going on. There is this like sacredness of that moment. And so the music plays a very important part. So that was one element. I was like, okay, wedding ceremony, there's like a reverence to this moment. People are super present. People are like allowing themselves to fully receive. And then I started playing at retreats, and I was offering this 75-minute musical immersion. And as the more that I did them, I was like, all I'm needing to do is show up and be fucking vulnerable and actually allow myself to share who I am on any particular day to the best of my capability. And so, yeah, those two things were kind of happening simultaneously, like the impact of the retreats, like 25 to 40 people, like really small, but like there were tears and there was laughing, and like I would cry and I would share the stories that I never thought I would share. And there was just this openness and this reception. And I feel like I really changed people's lives in those shows. And then the wedding ceremonies. And I was like, okay, there's something really interesting here. So last year, like 2022, I was working like a fucking demon. Like every opportunity that I had, I was pulling big days, big money, because I was like more. And then I hit burnout. And so I'm not very good at catching myself before, I'm like, I love the grind and doing things and feeling the tired. I want to be tired but inspired. That's my new clothing line apparently. And so what I did was I went away. I took 9 days up to Harvey Bay, which is where I grew up. And I had a lot of like family links in there. And I woke up every morning. I went for a swim. I learned how to fire twirl. I went for a run, and I ate. And that was basically all I did for about 9 days. And on day 7, I watched this young girl singing. And because I grew up there and I did my first gig there, and, she was singing the same songs that I was singing, like the same covers. And I was like, oh, there's something that just wants to come through. And so I sat with it. And then I was like, I know what it is. It's a platform for people to bring themselves and really have the opportunity to own themselves and to practice that ownership as a musician, as an artist, singing their own songs. That's one element. And then bringing people in and actually allowing them the safety to receive the music. So getting rid of the noise, getting rid of the substances, getting rid of everything that basically clouds the human experience that we're so used to. And then I was like, that is the embodiment of how I wish for people to interact with art, with music, with themselves. Connection to land, connection to community, really being able to receive the gold that is in every opportunity. And so it took me about 3 months, and I put on our first show in January of this year on the Gold Coast. And from there, the vision has gotten deeper, the intentionality has gotten deeper, and we're just about to expand interstate to South Australia. And yeah, I think those like independent elements that I saw and I could really feel, I was like, we should all get to experience this. Like there's so much music in bars, there's so much drinking at festivals, it's all heightened and, and that's great. Like there's definitely time for that. But I was like, there's this other space that is really unallocated energetically that people are really like desperate for after COVID. Like people just want to feel more connected.
Yeah.
And so creating these like bubbles to go, here you go. We're going to make it really, really easy. All you have to do is walk in and we will allow you the space.
Like when I hear that, so much of it for me is about bringing back that feeling into music. Like myself, I've been listening to so much blues lately.
Okay.
And the reason I do that is like there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of like feeling within that, and it's like, oh, there's a realness, there's an aliveness, and hearing you speak of that and like your own transmission of, oh, I can make people feel by showing up and being the realest and rawest version of myself. And I think it's so powerful when we can allow the depths of our own vulnerability, because that is such a transmission to the world where it can be like, oh, I can feel that myself. Like if I'm here sharing my own grief, maybe it gives permission for another person to feel their own grief.
Yeah.
If you're singing about your joy, which some people have trouble feeling, maybe they can feel their joy. If they truly feel you in that, if they feel your sadness and the depth of your own emotion, they too can enter that.
Yeah.
And like the role I see in that is a gatekeeper, like of, oh, there's a gate for people to walk through. And if they want, they can open that gate and walk into their heart to allow themselves to feel. And for me, one of the most important things we can do here in this world is feel. Because for me, that's when I feel most alive. If I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling anger, if I'm feeling joy, all of it brings me to life. All of it invites more of life into me. And like when you're speaking to the impact of music, that's what I'm feeling, like this invitation for more feeling, for more depth of emotion, for more realness, where there's no numbing, which like you're speaking to with the no alcohol. I know there's no phones at your events as well. Right. Where it's like, oh, we can avoid everything in that. We can avoid our emotions. We can avoid the moment because maybe we don't want to feel our sadness.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want to feel our anger. But when we do, that's when we come alive.
Well, man, 100%. And like touching on the phone thing became really important. Like, do not sacrifice your experience to prove how important you are to people who potentially don't matter. Like this, like addiction to social media and like social capital of like, oh, I have to associate myself with this moment because people are going to think it's amazing. And then, but what you're doing is you're watching an experience through this instead of actually feeling the experience from here. You know, it becomes cognitive. It doesn't become visceral. And that's why like at the first show, we were like, okay, we're just going to invite you to not have your phones, and we're going to put these systems in place so that you can still recall the event. You know, like we have a media team who come in and comprehensively capture everything. And it got reflected back to me after that first event. Like somebody was having this existential crisis during the night, really feeling how often they went to pick up their phone to capture something and how important that was to them because they didn't know how to fully be in the moment. And I'm like, cool, that just went to like the very top of the list, you know, because it's so tightly ingrained with us now. You know, everything is there. Like I know even for myself, like I have a lot of trouble separating myself from my business because my business is my life. Yeah. And a lot of it comes through my phone. And so I'm even allowing myself more space, you know, to go, okay, when I'm working, when I'm in the grind, I'm not really feeling that much. So put it down, go for a walk, take the dog to the beach or things, and really like create very strict separation. And it's still a work in progress because sometimes we can get so wrapped up in the pursuit of the next thing that we forget to like feel the splendor of the now.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be that dopamine rush that just floods us, and we're like,
totally,
I can get more of that how else can I get more? Oh, someone liked my story. And like, I notice it in myself. Like when I check my phone and there's notifications, it's like, oh, there's that little bit of a dopamine rush. And it's like that's the human reaction. That's why they've designed them in such a way to give us that. And we spoke of it earlier, like the blessings of social media and what we can use them for, and also bringing awareness to the limitations and factors that do not serve us and can be used to entrap us in a way of life that limits us, and to remember, oh, we're here to live.
Yeah.
So what makes us feel more alive? Because when I'm down in the dumps or I'm having a bad day, I can check social media and I can like avoid my feelings. I still feel the same shit at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere. If I get up, I go to the beach. If I go for a walk, if I go to the forest, like if I go exercise, oh, I feel better. Or if I go get some connection, listen to some music, dance, it changes our state.
Absolutely.
And there's an importance of, use it. Use it with awareness.
I feel like that is just the rule of the year. It's like you can do anything. Like you can do literally anything as long as you know what and why. You know, there's a lot of like unconscious programming. Like one of my last year, maybe 2 years ago, I basically did a breakdown of so many unconscious habits and so many like poor things. And it wasn't like I needed to change anything dramatic in my life, because my life was going really well. But I knew that these were like devotional things that I needed to start to change my relationship with, because that was going to keep me in the same place. And as I said, like my life was good at that time, but I have no expectation of having a good life. I want a fucking epic life. And I know that I can claim that because I'm willing to do what it takes to make it. And so, you know, it was like a 6-month challenge, and it was just a self-ordained challenge of like only drink water, work out 5 or 6 times a week, read a book, like read 15 pages of a book. There was something else. And then the last one, which was really like kind of confronting for me, was no self-pleasure. And so I did all of those things for 6 months, and like I was in a beautiful relationship at the time. Before that, I had a debilitating addiction to Pepsi Max, because years ago I was in the bodybuilding, I was into like gym, kind of the bodybuilding scene, and Pepsi Max, guilt-free drink, no sugar, no worries, cancerous, but you know, and it was very interesting because I learned so much about myself through that time of like, there was so much unconscious behavior that was holding me back. You know, I won't do that. I won't read those 15 pages, which takes 10 minutes. Yeah. And I won't, oh no, I'm too busy to go to the gym or go for a run or do anything like that. And like, oh, I'm stressed, so I'll get a Pepsi Max. Or I'm busy, so I'll get a Pepsi Max. Or there were just like all of these things that I was doing, but I wasn't really choosing to do them. I was just doing them because it was what I was doing. And from that, you know, so it's been just over 2 years and I'm still only drinking water. And, you know, the devotional practices of like, I made this decision to choose myself thousands of times a day just because I said that I would. And coming back to like the pursuit of creation and the devotion that takes, I choose myself and my vision hundreds of times a day. Because instead of doing that thing, I'll do this thing. Yeah. And I'll feel really inspired by that choice. Like I said earlier, like my metric for life is inspiration, and doing those things actually allowed me more gateways and more of a vantage point to be inspired. Because I was like, oh, I'm looking after myself, and I am catering to who I currently am and who I desire to be.
It makes me curious with this, because that intention to, in a way, improve yourself, to devote to yourself, to be like, oh, what's, in a way I would call that self-love, because you're looking to do the best for you and unpack anything that's not serving you.
Yeah.
I think that's love for the self. And when I hear that, like, and I reflect on my own journey and the times where I've got really intentional with certain things and committed to something, like where I'm at now in business, I'm considering, what do I need to do so I can show up better for my business? Because that's where my energy is right now. That's where my intention is, because I want to serve at a higher and higher capacity. And so that in a way motivates me to, look at them behaviors of, I'm picking up my phone too many times. I'm distracting myself when I'm working because I don't need to. And actually considering them and be like, is that serving me right now? Is that the person who would have the business that I want? Would it be the person that creates the impact that I want? Would they be doing that? And considering these things. And because at the moment my vision is so much around impact around the men and women I want to serve, and that's been such a big focus point for me, it's allowed me to look at these more and be like, that's an unconscious thing. I need to look at that. I need to do something else. I'm not feeling the gym. I need to go today because I'm not feeling it. I wake up and I'm feeling stressed. Okay, I need to prioritize myself right now and come back to a regulated nervous system before I do anything, and committing to that practice of like, myself right now is a priority. And I know because of my vision right now, that's where I'm heading.
Yeah, beautiful.
And with you, you've spoke of like vision a few times, and there's been like, that was part of your vision. And I'm assuming because of your vision at the time, it allowed that clarity of, okay, what do I need to look at? And also like, it's been a 12-year journey for you. So there has always been a vision, I imagine. And like speaking into that, what's the importance of vision for you and how it's allowed to guide you through life?
So as far as the ongoing journey, I think I've always seen it as a knowing. Like the knowing is the consistent. The vision for me is the vehicle. It is the next pursuit. It's the overarching thing. But the knowing that this is where I have always meant to be, that is what anchors me in. The Sound of Life vision, that was just a feeling. Like that's really all it was. It was this feeling of, it's time for me to take this next step. It's time for me to evolve. And I think maybe that's what it is. Like the vision is the invitation into the next evolution, regardless if I have clarity of what it is. Because I don't see vision as I need to see the picture to get it. It's more the sensation of who I am striving to be and what I need to do to get there. Because like the anchor of like, I know that this is the path I'm on here. Like I have affirmations and then I have challenges which kind of keep me on, roughly on the thing. And I have contemplated so many times of like changing it up just to test myself. Of just like, well, I'm quite a capable man. And so I wonder if I could do this, and I wonder if I would end up back over here, like really become a marine biologist. It was not because I had to, but just because I was like, I wonder if somehow I would just end up back here, like universally, like going like, let's see how committed we all are, But yeah, I love the idea that nothing is set, and I don't need to see things, with like lucid vision. The sensation will guide me. And yeah, for my personal career, like the vision of, okay, I want to get back on the festival circuit and I want to support bands internationally and I want to start doing headline shows and really expand my reach as an artist. I don't even know where that came from, but I felt the energy and it just like dropped, and it was like, okay, this is the vision for what the next evolution is. So I think they're the stones dropping in the pond as I'm like walking along the creek. Yeah.
I really enjoy this because there's a willingness here to say yes.
Yeah.
There's like, oh, this emerges and I'm going to trust myself enough to actually say yes to this thing. And I know for myself in the past, like earlier on in my journey, I'd have these ideas and I'd be like, oh, no, I can't do that. Who am I to do this? There'd be a lot of imposter syndrome of, I don't know if I can, or I don't know if that's a good idea. Like, and I think a lot of people can struggle with that of actually trusting what emerges for them. When I got the idea to do this podcast, it felt very natural. It was like, I'd been planning this for 3 years. I've been saying I wanted to do it for 3 years. And I kind of just let it float there. And then I did a vision quest and it was like, okay, this is alive now. It's time to take that step and trust in this and take this, and then our friend here, Jacob, the studio we're in now, I set the intention after Vision Quest, I'm going to message him, have a conversation, what it would look like to rent out this space.
Great.
He messaged me first. And so there was this invitation to step into it. And if I didn't trust in that moment of like during my quest of, oh, this is the next step, because I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know how I'm going to grow it. I don't know who's going to come on and all these things and start getting trapped in the logistics and the wonderment of, oh, what is possible? Or like, I want to control it all, because that's a big thing for me. I used to love a lot of control and making sure it's all got to be perfect.
Yeah.
And to just allow it and be like, okay, that's what is emerging right now. This is where I want to go. This is what feels right. This is where I'm being guided. And to surrender in a way to that of being like, this vision, if I just say yes to it and then surrender to where it wants to take me, it will lead the way.
Yeah, I love that. It's so interesting that he messaged you first. It's just like beat you to the punch.
That's what I find with like so much of my own path, and I'm curious about yours as well, is that like when something is truly aligned, there'll be circumstances that arise that just allow it to naturally fall into place. There's been times in business when I've felt really like I needed to force it. I need to make this happen and I've got to give it everything to get there, because then once I'm there, I can do the next thing. And there's this like, look, I'll be a little bit crude with this one. I talk about it like trying to fuck a dry pussy. Yeah. It just doesn't work. It doesn't feel good for anyone, and there's too much friction for it to actually work.
Yeah.
And then when we're actually aligned with our soul, with what we're here to create, there's a gentleness, there's an easefulness that emerges from it. And it doesn't mean, no, we don't work hard or we don't have to push or we just surrender and we just sit there and meditate all day. No, it like still means you do something, but it doesn't feel like you're forcing against something. And I know for me, when I'm on that journey, it's like, oh, that feels right.
Yeah.
There's a way open. And I'm curious of your experiences with that along your own journey of like the door almost opening and inviting you in.
Yeah. Well, I've quite an interesting relationship with manifestation, because I don't think manifestation is a passive action. A lot of people will sit and they'll just like, I'm manifesting $1 million, and like just kind of be in that. Whereas I started to frame it as I create the opportunity for the universe to provide what I need by speaking it into reality. And so, and the divine like synchronicity of, oh, I just happened to say this one thing to that one person who is holding the door open, and there's no way for me to know that will happen. But I think there was like an acknowledging of speaking my desires more outwardly, more often, was how I created ease. So the first thing was I got really clear on what I wanted. And then I just started like very casually bringing it into the 3D world. Because obviously it's all well and good for me to hold it all within myself. But I hold a lot of things. I hold a lot of my big pattern and my trauma around my career is I became hyper independent and I became the island. And so this was my invitation to actually bring more people in to support me so that I could impact more people. And so my manifestation became really like active and easeful, because all I had to do was really own it, speak it, and it would come. Like the speaking and the, you know, we were talking about alchemy before. Like it was the alchemization of like, oh, my desires are real enough for me to share them.
Yeah.
You know, which is a similar energy to my songs. Like my feelings and my intention behind writing, that is real enough for me to sing them on stage and to, I guess, invite people to really feel them as well. And so this was the same. This was kind of the pursuit of grace around desire and a life that really like lit me up to have.
This, I think, is such an important point in the manifestation conversation. And I really like how you approach this of actually speaking it outside of yourself and allowing yourself to be heard in that, because a big thing I'll ask people is, who would that person be and what would they do?
Yeah.
So I'm all about, like, we need to shape our internal reality to reflect who we are and who we want to be. And like we do, like for me, I do this through meditation and ritual and envisioning and all of that. And there is like a internal process with that. But until I, like, sometimes things just drop in when I do that. I'll admit that, like, it's crazy. Some of the synchronicities, like the podcast, like that was an energetic thing of, I put the intention to take the action. I didn't have to, the universe beat me.
Yeah.
And I do believe that was an energetic thing of, oh, this is ready to happen. But when I think of most things, there needs to be action. There does need to be an external event that does occur. And often, like, I'll be like, okay, I need to message that person. Like with some of my clients, it's like, oh, like I just feel them in my space and it's like, oh, it's time to give you a message. That's not the actual client that was meant to come into my space, but then a random person will reach out and be like, hey, I want to join you for this.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, the action that I take, it may not be the one that was necessary, but it's the showing to the universe that I am willing to take the action.
Totally.
That shows that I'm ready to receive what it's here to offer. So it might not come in, like you say, in a direct way or how I know, but it comes in because it's like, oh, I'm being the person who would be ready to receive that. I am that person. So of course the universe is going to give that person what they need to be that person.
And like that brings up the whole, like in the creative industry, the scarcity mindset. And like in a lot of industries, like the scarcity of, I guess, of how we interact with cash flow and with money. Because what I saw for myself, and this is kind of interesting because conversations in the last week have been, I'm going to upgrade my wardrobe. I'm going to buy that new car. I'm going to do these things because I'm ready for the next iteration. And by not being active in that pursuit, I'm just waiting, you know, and waiting for me, particularly waiting is excruciating. You know, I definitely have a lesson in patience that I'm still embodying because I have been like moving through things at quite a fast pace for a long time. But I guess the willingness to demonstrate that you are ready, that is an important part of the ingredient.
Yeah.
You know, because I started the mentorship sessions for the Sounds of Life Academy, and there's a debilitating scarcity mindset, not because like the music's not good or whatever, but because people's energetic connection to money is, I need to hold on to it because I'm so terrified of letting it go. Whereas I think over the last 10 years, I've really trained my nervous system to go, trust.
Yeah.
This is necessary. This is an important part of what I need to do to play my role, and I will be okay. And I'll be supported, whether it's by the universe or by a client or an opportunity or whatever. If I don't actually take this step and meet the requirement, you know, because I don't think that we get shit for free. I don't think the universe is like, here's a handout. It meets you where you're at, you know. She meets you where you're at. I think the universe is definitely a woman.
Yeah, I view like the moving part of the universe as the woman.
Yeah.
Like the go masculine, feminine. There may be an external container, but
Sure.
life feels very alive. It feels very like a she to me.
Yep, yep. And yeah, just like really trying to impart those pieces of like the more that we hold, the less we allow.
Yeah.
If we let things move, like as you say, like if we let the energy of what it feels like to be abundant, not only in money but also in life, if we let that move through us, then we are actually opening ourselves up to receive more, because that energy is so much more potent than, oh, I need money. Like, that's boring.
Yeah. It's a boring problem to have,
It's
and I know I've been bored by it many times.
Yeah.
And like when I reflect on the times where I've like been more in that scarcity, there's a contraction that occurs. It's like I can't do anything. I must just like keep really small and like hide or like hold on to everything. And I've been there many times, and it's not fun. And there's been times where my bank account has got lower than them times, and I've continued to move forward.
Yeah.
And that movement is like, cool, I know I need to take this next step. I need to do this thing. I need to be unapologetic in this and continue my forward movement. Because if I slow and just like contract in, everyone feels that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh my God, there's like, for me, like when I think of that, the body gets so tight, and energetically I know I'm not open to receive because I'm trying to control, I'm trying to hold everything.
Yeah.
And when I release, when I let go and just like, okay, this is what is being asked of me and this is the way I need to go. And even if the money isn't there, doing the thing that I'll do if the money was there.
Yep.
And this has been one of the scariest moments for me many times where I've said yes to something and maybe I didn't have the money there yet. It's always came, one form or another. It showed up.
There.
And it's not just like, oh, I leave it to the universe. I'm taking action. I'm doing things. But to have that level of trust and commitment to it, because for me, that's what it is. Like when we're committed to something and we're saying, I'm going to do this regardless of what it takes and I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Oh, man. Like how many times have you said, I'm never going to let myself be this person again? And then that just comes back around. Because regardless of, that's not the lesson. I don't think it's like, because the memory that came to mind is I finished up at a festival over New Year's and I didn't get paid for 2 weeks. And I was really banking on that money being in my account. So I had like negative $60 in my account. This was maybe 7 years ago. And so I had 2 weeks of just like, what's in the cupboard? Like, I'm not going anywhere, no fuel, nothing. And so I finished that cycle and then like got the payment, was like sweet as, back living. But then I was like, I'm never going to let myself get to that point again. And then it wasn't long where that just kept repeating, because it's as you say, like the circumstances can be the same, but how we meet it is the thing that really matters.
Yeah.
Am I going to be resilient to the fact that life happens all the fucking time? And we get to evolve again beyond the need for whatever it is. Oh, I won't be heartbroken again. Chances are that's going to end again because you haven't learned that your resilience to life is more important than having control over the circumstances that make themselves available. So it really was this like letting go of like, oh, even if that happens again, that's cool. Like there's a lot of like resources. I've created resources for myself. If I get back to nothing for whatever reason, I'm going to carry on.
Yeah.
Because the rebuild is way more important than like, oh no, I'll shame myself and I will self-destruct because I allowed something happen that wasn't in my plan.
And I think this is one of the biggest points in that. Like if we're continuing to shame the parts of like, what happens if that happens again? And we like, anytime I tell the universe, I can't have that again, it creates it
Totally.
to just prove me wrong.
Yep.
And be like, actually, you're big enough to handle that again. You can handle that again. And you promised yourself you wouldn't, or you wouldn't do that thing. here it is again, because you need to learn that you're greater than that. You're bigger than that. And even if that comes up, you're going to continue on your path because that's who you're here to be.
Yeah.
And until I get over the rejection of that, of being like pushing it away and being like, oh, if that happened again, it would suck. It may suck. It may break my heart. It may, torture me for a week or, months if it's a heartbreak, whatever it is. But knowing I'll continue on living and I will be the person that I need to be to continue on and not sacrifice my dreams, my vision, and contract in so far that I never come out again, and just continually showing that we say yes to life.
Yeah.
Even when it challenges us, even when it puts a big old pothole in the road, because, well, that's what we want.
Yeah.
Like, I know for me, the times when I've suffered the greatest, there's been lessons in that have been invaluable.
Yeah.
They've called me more deeply to life. They've asked me to live more. They've asked me to believe more. They've given me hope that I can be the person I need to be in this world, because it's like when everything else is taken away, whatever that is, there's still more.
Yeah. Man, I had the biggest initiation of my life, like almost 3 years ago. Like my mum passed, and like suddenly, traumatically, and there is not a cell in me that is the same now than before that. And we were talking about alchemy before. This is what came to mind, is like in that time, that was I don't even know who I was. I don't even know if I was a person in that time, in the recovery of that, and the reconciliation and the understanding of that. But exactly as you said, I had the opportunity to create myself in the way that honored, who she saw me to be and who I aspired to be. And like in a very interesting way, I don't know if I'd be the man that I am if that hadn't happened. Which is such a battle to feel, because I love who I am now, and I love the powerfulness and the reverence that I have for life. But knowing that had to happen to shift me into a gear that has put me on this path is quite excruciating to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's those things will happen, and they come up, and then you get to choose. I think the power of life is choosing who you desire to be, regardless.
And truthfully, I don't believe you would be the man who sits here before me without that. And that's, in a way, one of the greatest tragedies of this life, is that some of our most intense suffering and pain allows us to be forged. And I know I've heard of some of that journey with your mum and what that has been like. And to feel the gift that's been given on the other side of that, to take that and be able to forge something new. And from that, it's one of the greatest powers and strengths that we can have as people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a realness and a strength that comes when we're in the moments of life, I found. And I can only speak to my own experience, and I haven't experienced that yet. And I just want to honor you as a man who's gone through that and allowed yourself to become who you are here today, and give yourself the gift of life and give life the gift of you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Josh, man, I feel like we're coming to a natural close, man. Before we do, is there anything you want to share, anything you want to bring into the space?
I think I just would love to just create a reminder for anybody listening is you have the room to unapologetically bring yourself to this world. And of all the things that you choose to do, that will be the thing that you will never regret, is allowing yourself the space to share your most valuable, your most unique, offerings to this world. And I really want to celebrate you in that, and I want to, support that journey as best as I can.
Please bring your gifts. Bring your gifts to life. Let us share and bask in all that you have to offer. Like it is my prayer that each of us may be able to give that gift to life, give ourselves to life, because when I think of life, that is what it truly asks. So thank you, man, for giving yourself to life, for giving your gift to life, and sharing that with so many people, sharing your heart and your music and your creations and all that you bring to life. It's a great pleasure to witness and walk alongside you, man.
Thank you, brother.
Before we finish up, how would people want to connect? Is there anything you've got coming up that you would want to share?
So the best way to connect in with me would probably be through the social medias at Lovegrove Music. And then Sounds of Life, we're holding our final show on the Gold Coast on the 1st of October. And we're expanding out to Adelaide on September 3rd. And Sounds of Life Touring is the handle. If you want to get in contact with that, we're running mentorship programs for creative entrepreneurship for artists and creatives who are wanting to really impactfully lead themselves through a creative life. And if you're an artist and you want to be aligned with our vision at Sounds of Life Touring, then please send us a message. And I'm sure I'll see you on the track.
Yeah, you heard him. Reach out to Josh if you've got questions. I'm sure he's happy to answer. Check out Sounds of Life. It's epic creation that Josh is creating, and it's a great pleasure to continue to witness him in that. If anyone needs to find me on Instagram at the Dean Bentley. Thank you all for listening to another episode of The Weird Way. Stay tuned. If you found this useful, share, give us a rating, leave a review, ask some questions. Let us know what landed for you. So much love. Take care.